Hi, third graders. Today we are going to be learning 3NF3A. I can find equivalent fractions on a number line. And one of the tools that we are going to be using today are fraction strips. One thing that I love about fraction strips is that they can really help you see the sizes of different fractions. We're going to use fraction strips today to help us measure distance on a number line. So on your Seesaw instruction page, I did put a link. If you would like to print out these colored fraction strips, you can click on the link and then you can print them in color. If you don't have a color printer, there's also a black and white fraction strip sheet that you can print out, and then you can cut them apart and you'll be able to use them today, but also we'll be using them over the next couple weeks as we learn about fractions. So if you take a look, I printed mine out. I cut them out and then I organized them so that all of the same size fractions are together. I put mine in little bowls, but you could also just keep them in paper clips or put them in little envelopes or in little bowls, and then it'll help you stay a little bit organized. All right, so our job today, the first thing we're going to do, we are going to use our fraction strips to build number lines. So it says that we are going to build two number lines. We're going to build a number line with fourths and with halves. So here's my fourths, and here are the halves. Okay, and like I said, you can definitely see the different sizes of these fractions when you use the fraction strips. So what do you notice about the two fractions? You're right. The halves are much bigger than the fourths, aren't they? Good. All right. So I'm going to just move these up over here. And when I make my number line is going to start at the number 0 and it's going to stop at the number 1. This is one whole bar, and since our fraction strips are made so that they're all the same length, we're going to be able to use this to help us actually measure the distance of our number line, almost like a ruler. Okay, so I'm going to make my number line. Here's 0, and here's 1. And we're actually going to make two number lines, so I'll make my second one right away. Scoot it down here so we have space. When we are comparing fractions, we're going to want to make sure that when we do our two number lines, that we have the 0 in the same spot, right above and below each other, and then the number 1 at the end should be in the same spot. Because then as we put our fraction strips out, they'll land on the right spaces where they're supposed to be. All right, done with that. All right, so if we take a look at our fourths, how many of these do you think are going to fit on our number line? Let's see. Okay, 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. 4 fourths fit in between 0 and 1. All right, so I'm actually going to just kind of mark off where they landed, because that's how big that I want to make my jumps. Okay, that's why these are useful. They actually help us make really good hops on our number line. All right, so when I count on my number line, I always go like this. 1/4, 2 fourths, 3 fourths, 4 fourths. I can write that down. And then I'm going to go down to my halves. How many halves do you think are going to fit on the number line? Yeah, 2. Okay. All right, so this is where my halves end. So I'm going to move those away now. I use these to help measure the size, and now I can make my 2 hops, right? 1/2. 2 halves. What do you think would come next? 3 halves, right? All right, so we have 1/2, then we have 2 halves. All right, so now that I've drawn my number line, you will notice that there are 2 places on our number lines where the jumps landed in the exact same spot. Do you see them? So I'm looking at my 1/4, but that didn't line up with the half down here. But look here, 2 fourths, look at, they landed on the exact same spot. That means that 2 fourths is equivalent to 1/2. They're equal. They're the same. They're the same size. Let's see if we can do that with our fraction bars. Here's 1/2. And we have 2/4. See, they're the same size. And they also land on the same spot on the number line. Okay, when we find an equivalent fraction, you can actually write it like this. 2/4 equals 1/2. Equal means the same, right? They're the same size, and it also means equivalent. All right, let's see, 3/4. Does it match up with anything? Nope. And 4/4? Oh, it does, it matches up. So 4/4 is the same as 2/2. Let's give that a try. So here's our 2/2. 1/2, 2/2, okay. See if it's the same size as 4/4. These are a little wobbly, but look at that, a perfect match. They are the same, they are equal. All right, so we found 2 equivalent fractions on this using these number lines. Okay, so we said 2/4 equals 1/2 because they're in the same spot, and now we're gonna say 4/4 is equal to 2/2. So those are the equivalent fractions when we're trying to find fourths and halves. All right, so your job today is going to be to do this, only you'll be using different fractions. I think I have 3 different slides that I would like you to try. Try to build them on paper, and then take a picture of your fraction and add it to the slide. If you do not have a printer or you cannot print out the fraction strips, then you are going to have to try to draw them, okay? If you have to draw them, make sure that when you do your hops, that your hops are equal. So see how all of my fourths are about the same size? It takes 4 hops from the 0 to the 1, and then down here it takes 2 hops from the 0 to the 2. So if you can do the fraction strips, that would be ideal, but if you cannot, then maybe check with mom or dad and ask them to help you draw some equal hops and see if you can find some equivalent fractions. Good luck and have fun.